and Rob Parker, Anthony Davis went berserk last night. I mean, he took Rudy Gobert, one of the best defensive players in the league, I think a 2-time defensive player of the year. He took Rudy Gobert to the woodshed and beat him down. 42 points. And I tell you, Rob, what I liked most about what AD did, and I get it. I said this on TV today. I'm not overreacting because he always is great for 3 quarters. What I need to see is a beast in the fourth. And I liked last night that he showed up in the fourth. You know, up until the last month before the shutdown, Anthony Davis had averaged like 3 points a game in the fourth quarter. And that's just not enough. I mean, to put that in perspective, that would be 12 points per game if you scored 3 points every quarter. And, of course, he's a 27, 28-point scorer. So he should be getting you more than 3 in the fourth. The last month of the season, he got better. They kind of went to him a lot more. But I thought what he did last night, the best thing about it was in the fourth quarter, he didn't back away. He didn't defer to LeBron. And I don't mean it in a negative way because LeBron's obviously running the show, but Anthony stepped up. It wasn't like I got to wait to see if LeBron will give me the rock or does he want to shoot. No, he was aggressive. He put up big-time 3-pointers. He did his thing. He had 8 points in the last 4 minutes. He had 6 in the last 43 seconds. That is what the Lakers are going to need from AD if they're going to have a chance to beat the Clippers. What did you think?
I take it with a grain of salt. I do, and I know it's not fair. We know how talented Anthony Davis is, but I just until we see him when it matters, like that's where he's still going to be judged. What happens when that moment comes? We've seen him disappear in fourth quarters all year. When it matters most, will that aggressive guy from last night show up, or will the guy we normally have seen be the guy who doesn't get it done? And I always say when you play with LeBron, if all the minions call him the GOAT, and if they don't win and Anthony Davis doesn't play well in the fourth quarter, guess what? Anthony Davis will be the scapegoat. It'll be about AD being soft. He ain't ready for prime time. What happened in the fourth? He was great in the first 3 quarters, and then they lose. That's what this is going to be, an indictment on Anthony Davis and whether or not Chris. And when people say that he's going to be the reason why the Lakers win or lose, I agree with that. It doesn't mean that LeBron's not going to be a factor or have something to say about it. But if Anthony Davis comes up small in the fourth quarter of these playoff games, they're not going to win, the Lakers. They just aren't.
You bring up an interesting point, Rob. Okay, let's say LeBron plays well. Doesn't really dominate like Kawhi and Paul, but let's say LeBron looks like the best individual player in the series. Say he averages, 29 and 9 and 9 or, plays well. But AD doesn't really give him much in the fourth. AD can average a lot of points too in the first 3 quarters, but if he doesn't deliver in the fourth, you're right. The criticism's going to be, come on. LeBron was facing Kawhi and Paul George in this deep team, and he didn't
show up in the fourth quarter.
Do you think that'll be fair?
What do you mean fair?
Would you say if they lose to the Clippers and AD doesn't bring it in the fourth quarters, do you think it will be fair if the lion's share of criticism goes to him? Assuming LeBron plays well.
Yeah, well, you're right. You got to assume that.
Yeah.
But, no, AD will get criticized, but ultimately it's going to hang on LeBron's head as far as losing if they don't get there. Do you know what I mean? Like it'll be you won the
people
West.
People will bring back up.
Right.
But what about this? You won the number 1 seed.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah. You won the West. You went and you got the guy you wanted. Do you know what I mean? Like you went and got AD to come and play with you and all this other stuff. Ultimately, because LeBron James cast the biggest shadow in the room, Chris, it will come down on LeBron that he came to L.A., put together this team, and didn't win, whatever it is. And then AD will get that. I'm just saying he will get his share as well for coming up small.
Here's a little perspective. AD, in the 4 games with the Clippers, he scored 10 total points. 10 total points in the fourth quarters. 10 in the fourth
That's
quarters.
mind-boggling, seriously, for that guy, Chris. That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is, because he averaged like 28, 29 against them. But in the fourth, only 10 points. And Skip said today on Undisputed, he only took 9 shots.
Right, he's not aggressive.
Right. And I tell you, LeBron is at his best, and all 3 of his championships have been when he's got a dog with him. When his number 2 guy is a dog. Dwayne Wade, and I mean that in a positive way, dog. Dwayne Wade, he knew that I got somebody riding with me who can deliver.
And look
Kyrie
at
Irving.
Kyrie averaged 28 against Golden State. Go look at the numbers.
They both have 41 in game 6 of that series or something. I mean, and Kyrie, of course, hit the huge shot to win that series. So LeBron is at his best when he's got full faith in his guy riding with him. And there are those, look, nobody denies how great of a player he is. But there are people around the league that wonder if he's got the dog in him. Some think he's just soft like that, not physically, but that's just not in him. He's just not the take charge type guy. He's not the alpha male that you want in those situations. And we're going to find out, because I think they're going to need AD to be a monster to beat the Clippers. Assuming both teams are whole, AD's going to have to be huge in those fourth quarters. Now, LeBron has shown in the last 2 games against the Clippers, which the Lakers have won, and granted the Clippers were depleted, but
they were depleted
LeBron,
and only lost by 2. You know what I mean? That wasn't that to me.
No,
that
was a moral victory for the Clippers, or at least those that picked them. But LeBron was great at the end, and that's the first time when they beat him in March. He had 12 points in the fourth quarter. This past game, he had 7 down the stretch, 2 assists, both of them 3-pointers in the fourth. He was huge. Obviously, he hit the game winner too. So he's shown that, and defensively he played well. It's about AD. And I felt, Rob, that the Lakers made a mistake throughout the season in not force-feeding AD in the fourth quarters. Because, again, LeBron's track record. You can count on him in the fourth. But AD, I think you had to get him in that mindset of you're the guy in the fourth. It's one thing to feed him in the first 3 quarters when the pressure's kind of off. But he's got to get used to getting that ball in the fourth quarter when you need a bucket. And I thought the Lakers should have made a concerted effort to do that throughout the season.
Absolutely.
Again, they kind of did it late, but, hopefully for them it wasn't too late.
Yeah, and that's the only problem. You don't know. I think that's still a question mark, Chris. And if he comes up and plays big and they win, then all of that will be for naught. But if not, there's a track record there that you will go back to and say all year he didn't perform when it mattered most in the fourth. That's the only thing. If he had the big games or whatever, and even if they lost, Chris, you wouldn't be able to go back to that. But because they didn't and he didn't play that well, they'll be able to use that as ammo. So this is going to be a chance of, like I say, a coming out party for him.
We're assuming a Lakers-Clippers conference final. Do you think either team, right now we're kind of talking Lakers, is in any danger of losing before that?
I think the Lakers have a chance of losing before. I really don't. If the Clippers are healthy and they have their team, I do believe they're going to get there, Chris. I just do. They're deep. They play defense. You don't know where it's coming from. Is it Lou Williams tonight? Is it Paul George? Is it Kawhi? Where is it coming from? They have a coach who's already been there, done that, won a championship. I thought last year was Doc Rivers' best coaching job. After they lost it.
I would say certainly in L.A. it was.
Am I right? After even
LA
with all the other
was,
star
yeah.
players, Chris, that they won a championship in Boston. But
I
you know
give
what
him
I mean.
That first year I thought was great with the big three,
Right?
Because that
But
was
I'm
their
saying,
first year together. But yeah,
but
I hear you.
like just the idea of when Harris was traded, remember, and that was supposedly to toss in the towel on the season,
right?
And it didn't happen, and he got those guys to play really hard
Tobias
for him,
Harris.
and I was really impressed by what he was able to do. So I just like all the components. I like all the pieces. But I think that depending on the matchup with the Lakers, could they lose earlier? Maybe.
I tell you what's interesting is we've talked about Anthony Davis having that dog in him. There are questions about Paul George, not Kawhi, but there are questions about Paul George. Now he has been playing great. His 3-point shot has improved. I mean, he's great in that regard now. But there are those that want to see him do it at the highest level too. And this is what happens, Rob. We can say that about James Harden. We can say that about Chris Paul. We can say that about Russell Westbrook. Until you do it, people are going to have questions. It's just as simple as that. Until you get your team over the hump and play your best basketball when all the games are, important and everything's on the line and you lead your team to a championship, people are going to say, can he get it done in the clutch?
And we saw it. We saw Michael Jordan, Chris. I mean, I was covering the
People
NBA
said it about
then.
him.
They said he's a great scorer, whatever, but he doesn't make anybody better, and he'll never win. That's what they used to say. That's what they used to say.
If they could say it about Jordan, they can say it about anybody. And that is what is happening. And even LeBron went through that. And so we'll see. This is AD's time. But the question is, can he do it against the Clippers? We saw you do it against the Jazz. But can you do it against the LA Clippers?